Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this particular channel. So today we are going to discuss about post-basic pharmaceutical sterile KKM Sungai Buloh occupational safety and health subject presentation. So we are glad today because with me is Puan Mazdila, our examiner number one. Hi Puan Mazdila, how are you? Assalamualaikum Puan.
Waalaikumsalam, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, and then we have here Puan Azlina also as our examiner for this session. Assalamualaikum Puan, how are you?
Sehat, Alhamdulillah.
And then our important personnel today is Puan Anissa Musa. She's going to present something about her findings and also her assignments and project entitled after this. So without further ado, Assalamualaikum Puan Anissa, sihat?
Waalaikumsalam Cik Aizat. Assalamualaikum Puan Mazlila, Puan Azlina.
Waalaikumsalam, Nisa.
So,
Do you feel good?
Sejuk sikit lah. Berdebar.
Okay, I believe Puan Anissa is already ready to present her findings. And then without further ado, I would like to call upon Puan Anissa Musa to present her findings. Okay, so this is her slide. She's talking about something to do with the therapeutic agent and also occupational safety and health component. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Puan Anissa to present her findings. Silakan Puan, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Cik Aizat. Assalamualaikum, saya Anissa daripada Post Basic. Okay, saya hari ini akan menerangkan tentang radioiodin. Okay, ini adalah radioiodin yang kita buat di Farmasi Nuklear Hospital Kuala Lumpur. Diagnostik dia short half life. Lepas tu kita ada dua, titanium, iodine, kita ada PEP fluorine, oksigen. Tapi yang hari ni saya akan terangkan mengenai iodine. Okay, radio start iodine, dia punya half life adalah 8 hari daripada kita buat tu. Dia daripada nuclear reactor. Ini adalah oral solution. Daripada oral ni lah yang kita akan jadikan dia solution. Okay, ini adalah bila kita jadikan dia sebagai kapsul untuk dimakan terus. Okay, iodine ni digunakan untuk thyroid disease therapy sebagai benign thyroid carcinoma. Lepas tu kalau kita nak diagnose by imaging lah. So kita boleh guna CT scan pun boleh. Iodine ni dia akan terus kepada thyroid. So dia akan pergi ke lobes, follicle, parathyroid gland. So ini adalah dia punya sel-sel yang kita akan kill. Ini adalah punya cara-cara mechanism of action daripada kita iodine tu sendiri. Dia akan attack kepada T4, kepada thyroglobulin. Ini adalah mechanism of action juga, internal radiation. Okay, ini adalah handling radioiodine. Ini adalah working bench, L-shape dia. So kita akan masukkan radioiodine kat dalam ni. So dia ibarat macam isolator tapi dia hanya ada penghalang supaya benda tu tidak spread ke muka je. So untuk preparation iodine kita kena check prescribed dose, calculate, withdraw the accordingly. Ni adalah preparation of iodine. Okay, ini untuk kita dispense radioiodine. Mula-mula kita panggil nama patient, correct patient present, kena confirm patient pregnant ke tidak sebab dia tidak boleh diberikan kepada orang yang mengandung sebab dia akan efek pada fetus. Okay, ini adalah cara-cara kita dispense radioiodine. So kita akan pakai gown tu. Okay, ni patient akan minum terus dalam botol yang disediakan. So, kita akan standby dekat belakang tu, tengok patient minum habis ke tidak. So ini adalah kita buang radioiodine. Kita ada waste room, so kita akan masukkan dalam sharp bin dan kita akan ikat sebagai clinical waste. So, adverse side effect dia, patient akan muntah, dia akan chest pain, Biasanya dalam masa 3 hari, pasien akan rasa panas ataupun susah untuk bernafas, untuk makan dan minum. Okay, ini adalah contoh yang lamina yang kita gunakan. Okay, distance dia, ni time dia, cara kita kira. Ni adalah bahan-bahan yang kita gunakan. Syringe tu adalah syringe untuk protect syringe tu supaya dia tak leaking. Dia menggunakan syringe yang berlainan. Okay, ini adalah cara-cara bot ni adalah untuk menghalang kita daripada patient dengan personal lah. Okay, ini adalah PPE yang digunakan masa kita mendispense. Kita guna lab coat, kita ada lid glove, overshoes, lid apron dengan mask. Okay, list of hazard. Okay, untuk safety data sheet saya mengambil doxorubicin. So, location dia ada dekat fridge in CDR. So, sebab saya praktikal di Institut Kanser Negara, so saya mengambil doxorubicin lah. Disimpan di dalam fridge, protect from light. The liquid solution, the red orange colour. Hazard identification, respiratory sensation category 1, carcinogenic, germ cell mutagenic, reproductive toxicity, boleh skin sanitize, reproductive toxicity kalau orang tu mengandung dan menyusu. Okay, fire fighting measure, toxic gas, lepas tu extinguishing media. Okay, ni first aid measure, flush dengan volume 15 minit, ataupun kalau kena dengan skin, dia kena dengan cool soapy water. Kalau inhalation, dia akan difficult breathing, attention, terus pergi hospital lah. Okay, ini adalah dia punya pictogram. Dia akan korosif, mudah meletup. Dia adalah salah satu biohazard infectious medical. Okay, ini adalah aktiviti 3 saya. Pengenalian sesuatu tumpahan. Okay, hazard dia adalah tumpahan dalam kabinet yang boleh menyebabkan penyakit. Kawalan risiko dia, pemakaian PPE, tempat khas untuk sediaan setotoksik dengan spillage kit. Kemungkinan yang akan berlaku 4. Keterukan dia adalah 1, so tahap risiko dia adalah 4. So 1 darab 4 adalah 4 lah. So tu adalah mengekalkan risiko yang sedia ada. Lagi satu adalah menyediakan pesanan setotoksik. Hazard adalah pendedahan kepada setotoksik yang boleh menyebabkan penyakit, pemakaian PPE, menukar gloves setiap 30 minit ataupun biological effect monitoring. Kemungkinan yang akan berlaku 1, keterukan adalah 3, tahap risiko adalah 1. Penggiliran langkah-langkah yang boleh disarankan, penggiliran kerja, maksudnya kita akan ada jadual untuk orang yang akan duduk di komponen. So dah kemungkinan dalam seminggu akan disiapkan jadual. So lepas minggu kedua dia tak akan duduk di komponen lah. Lepas tu mengekalkan mengawalkan risiko sedia ada. Sama ada pergi buat test, pergi cek darah balik, tengok blood cell okey tak. Lepas tu kita akan mengamalkan macam buat validasi kalau untuk training balik kalau ada masalah ke, tengok personal tu confident ke tak, competent ke tak untuk melakukan lagi. Okay, ini adalah skala saya. Okay, ini adalah contoh PPE yang digunakan di satu toxic drug. So, pakai respirator, Google, glove neutral, jumpsuit dengan isolation gown. Okay, terima kasih. Okay, ini adalah poster saya. Nampak ke, Cik?
Nampak ni? Nampak.
Okay, poster saya. So, ini adalah saya ambil masa saya berada di IKN bersama klik-klik saya. So, masalah dia adalah problem, high level of noise, hazard dia, kita impair awareness, increase error in preparing CDR worksheet. keep background sound untuk measure dia lah. Lighting dia tak banyak yang problem. Too high or too not dia boleh adequate. Hazard dia glare, screen dia akan menyebabkan kita penat, mata penat lah. Temperature not too hot or too cool. Okay, itu saja cik. Itu saja dari saya. Cuba nak sikit balik.
Right, thank you very much Puan Anissa for the presentation, a very quick one and a very comprehensive lah, I believe. Alright, so without further ado, I would like to invite Puan Azlina for her comment. Silakan Puan Azlina with regard to the presentation by our candidate here.
Thank you, Cik Aizat. Okay, Nisa, okay?
Okay.
Okay, tahniah presentation dah selesai. Just ada few yang saya nak comments dan buat penambahbaikan untuk anda lah. Okay, pertamanya regarding the poster just now. Mungkin bagi saya gambar itu kurang sesuai dengan hazard yang anda pilih. Okay, sebab biasanya pada poster kita nak lihat gambar, kita nak lihat apa maklumat yang ada di situ supaya bila orang tengok poster tu orang dah dapat imagine, dapat faham apa yang kita cuba nak terangkan tentang hazard yang kita nak kongsi kan. So boleh buat penambahbaikan dari segi gambarnya. Okay. And then dari segi slide tadi dengan saya dari mekanisme action tu mungkin tidak perlu dijelaskan, tapi awak lebih fokus kepada occupational safety health yang kita dah letakkan requirement dia yang you perlu fulfillkan dalam awak punya slide tersebut, especially tentang bagaimana you nak menggunakan PPE tu, you nak downing the PPE, the type of PPE use. Walaupun ada at the end tu ada satu dua gambar yang mungkinlah ada berhubung kait dengan PPE. Okay. So saya rasa that one yang perlu you tekankan lah, yang buat penambahbaikan kat atas slide tadi. Okay. Saya rasa mungkin Cik Aizat dan Puan Masliha ada lagi yang nak ditambahkan. Itu dari saya. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much Puan Azlina for her comprehensive comment. I would like to invite my colleague Puan Masdila to add up some comment and also improvement needed by the candidate. Silakan Puan Masdila.
Alright, thank you Cik Aizat. Saya mohon maaf sebab tadi saya keluar ke toilet, so dapat pun dah hujung sikit. So just comment sikit lah tentang regarding the poster like Puan Azlina said. Actually our main poster is kita nak inform, nak tell people about what actually we want to tell. So dekat sini kalau kita lihat, this is regarding the environmental condition. So environmental condition dekat at the CDR workstation. So kalau kat sini ada banyak benda yang Puan Anissa nak presentkan, tetapi macam dia punya apa kita nak kata, dia punya kita punya penaksiran kepada poster tu is look like confusing. Oh, nak cerita pasal apa ni kat kawasan ni? Oh no, it's lighting. Macam like Puan Azlina said lah, dia something macam confused lah. Okay, and then and then mungkin boleh kepada aktiviti ketiga, iaitu high rate tu kan. Kalau kita lihat based on the aktiviti kerja, pengendalian tumpahan sitotoksik, tumpahan di dalam kabinet. So boleh menyebabkan kesan penyakit. Penyakit tu macam apa? Penyakit macam like presentation before, penyakit tu adakah penyakit yang menyebabkan irritation to your skin ke something like that kan? ataupun penyakit yang boleh menyebabkan reaction to your body ke kan. So mungkin kalau boleh detailkan kat situ, jangan terlalu surface sangat. And then mengekalkan macam like I said before, untuk langkah kawalan, mengekalkan dan mengamalkan kawalan risiko sedia ada. Terms kawalan risiko tu macam terlalu general. Okay, kalau boleh dispesifikkan lah kepada hierarki kawalan yang kita ada supaya langkah kawalan tu boleh di improvement dan diimplement lebih baik. Okay, itu saja daripada saya. Thank you.
Terima kasih Puan.
Okay, thank you very much Puan Mazlina and so Puan Azlina. So it is now time for my comment. Okay. So Puan Anissa, first of all, I would like to say congratulations because I think your presentation is giving us a lot of new insight about the management and also the scientific details with regard to the administrations of radioactive drugs lah, which is we call it as a radioiodine, which is under sodium 131 betul sodium 131 kan. This is for thyroid patient lah, betul Alright, so I got a few comments. So the first one, I go on the superficial manner first, and then I'm going to dive into a deeper manner lah. So the second activity with regard to the safety data sheet, same also. I believe this is the previous comment also need to take into account where you need to adequately estimate your doxorubicin is actually used for what, for example. Just asking you, what is the use of this doxorubicin yang you buat?
Anti-cancer.
It's an anti-cancer. Okay, what about the type of this drug? Is that in the physical, powder or liquid form?
Dia dalam liquid form. So kita just syringe out, masuk dalam syringe ataupun kita bagi dia as a bolus ataupun dalam botol infusion lah.
Kapsul tak boleh lah kan sebab dia bukan powder, dia dalam bentuk liquid kan. Alright, so why I ask this thing, because I think your safety data sheet component need to be upgraded and also improve lah or do some sort of major correction.
Sebab tu saya pas sadar dia terlalu simple lah sebenarnya.
Not necessarily say very simple, but it's very confusing because last kali saya tengok dia punya label ni semua sekali. Dia macam tu. But it's okay. I believe you need to do some sort of correction lah basically on this SSDS. And then we really appreciate if you can talk more about this Robocop nama dia doxorubicin. Nama memang dahsyat doxorubicin ni in terms of the usage, in terms of the exposure, who are exposing to these particular drugs, and then what kind of the rate of being exposed. Are they being exposed frequently, daily, monthly, weekly, once a year, whatsoever. So based on that, we are also understand what you understand in terms of what is the risk that you are going to classify, even though this is one type of the reproductive toxicity drug. Betul tak? Dia reproductive toxicity ni. However, we still can justify whether this one is safe to use or not safe to use based on your manual safe procedure, based on your PPE that you have, based on whatever technology that currently available in your HKL lah. Correct or not? So that is for me is inadequate, and I really hope that you can revise and then do some sort of major correction towards it. Okay, so the next one is your radioiodine. Your radioiodine is quite okay in terms of your presentation. You talk and you speak a lot of things with regard to the process. I believe not many students able to do that because you have the ability to share your own experience towards managing this patient and so on. However, I may suggest that you might want to look into whatever suggestion or existing control measures yang you ada, because this is you punya high rank is actually this radioiodine kan? Ke you punya high rank? Doxorubicin. Okay. Kalau you buat pasal doxorubicin, so make sure it is based on the doxorubicin. So kalau doxorubicin tadi, if I'm not mistaken, you are focusing on the two things, which is the first one is the tumpahan lah. And then the second one is more on the reconstitution ataupun manipulations of the drug. And then you ada talk about the biological monitoring. So when you talk about biological monitoring, as I mentioned to your previous friend also, Mr. Firdaus, you have to sort of give justification why you give the nilai keterukan 3. Is the levels is above from the normal regulated recorded by your department, or is less than the biological standards given by the previous study kan. Sebab bila you buat biological monitoring ni, you ada data yang you kata tadi pasal darah punya data kan. You ambil darah ke ambil air kencing?
Darah.
Okay, so based on the blood level, so you will know the status of the workers. So based on that lah sebenarnya you justify dia punya
Ini
keterukan.
biological effect monitoring ni macam ni je. Kalau macam kita tercucuk, kata needle prick kan, so macam kita tercucuk diri kita sendiri. So
Okay.
macam, so kita akan pergi ambil darah. Macam tu lah maksud saya, biological effect
Okay.
monitoring.
That is correct. That is correct. What I said, what in the other context when we talk about biological monitoring is also based on what you expose. That is also determined by the biological monitoring. Example, macam you kata tadi, this personnel terdedah kepada the drugs by airborne. Let's say by airborne or by accidental ingestion or whatsoever lah kan. Kadang-kadang macam termasuk sikit ke whatsoever. So we want to see whether there is a cross or not. Cross ni maknanya dah masuk dalam badan lah. So we look into the biological monitoring. So istilah biological monitoring ni not necessarily for the needle prick tau. That's why I specifically ask you about this. Bukanlah ask, I mean discuss together with you so that you also understand and all the viewers also outside there understand biological monitoring not necessarily because of the needle prick, but it is because of the exposure to this chemical. Because sometimes hazardous drug do not have the exposure level. Dia tidak ada OEL, dia tidak ada occupational exposure level. So therefore when you get exposed towards inhalation, for example, then there is deposited inside your body, there is some mechanism inside your toxicokinetic and so on, and then they manifest inside your blood, and then that blood show what kind of level. Sama macam lah orang-orang lain jugalah, macam contoh environmental health practitioner kan, dia orang buat fogging, so dia orang kena ambil darah, something lah, sama lah macam you all juga. But what I said here, that biological monitoring need to reflect back with your keterukan. So bila you letak 3 ni, so maksudnya dia menunjukkan majority of your people outside there is either approaching the limit tau, in my interpretation, because you put there is keterukan is 3. Kalau you tengok balik dalam you punya slide tadi, keterukan you 3 in terms of the pemakaian PPE dan juga biological monitoring. Ni I buat interpretation lah, because I don't have the data, I don't have the opportunity to see the real cases, but my assumption is it is ambiguous. There is something that we need to look back, whether betul ke dah biological monitoring ini menunjukkan result yang macam tinggi. So that is the argument lah. So perhaps you can make some sort of improvement. Why you say 3? It's okay to say 2, it's okay to say 3, it's okay also to say 4. But why you say like that? The why is actually differentiate from the previous experience dengan current experience lah. Okay. So and then inside this also I can see your high rank, you're talking about okay, never mind. Majority of it is already being commented, and then some of it is already commented based on your friend's presentation. Hopefully you can just revise it accordingly. Okay, on your radio iodine, I just wondering lah, you are the one who operate it, right? Walaupun you pharmacist kan, betul kan? You operate it juga, maksudnya you administer it.
Saya belum lagi operatif. Kemungkinan lah. Bila saya balik post basic ni, kemungkinan saya akan masuk.
So theoretically speaking, you are also the cytotoxic drug handlers lah, ataupun orang yang akan uruskan kan, betul So I just wonder, because inside your slide dalam radio iodine tadi, you should also emphasize on the, because I believe you akan kerja dalam bidang ni, so of course you pun dah ada pengalaman. What I want is, not I want lah, what I believe you should suggest to your management is, beside all this protective equipment and so on, is the environmental monitoring. So it's your environmental monitoring and the environment of work monitoring, because you are talking about dosimetry. Saya tak dengar dosimetry tadi, tapi saya believe you akan diberi lah by right, betul tak? Kan you tak diberi dosimetry. Masa you buat ni, you pakai tak dosimeter?
Pakai.
You tak tahu saya tak dengar ke? Saya rasa macam saya tak dengar. Ke atau awak
saya tak cakap.
So that is actually important. Why? Because if you working with the hazardous drug, specifically radioactive material, you have to personalize your exposure. And then in terms of the mapping of the exposed, ada tak dibuat mapping dalam you punya clinics tu? Kat kawasan-kawasan mana yang ada loophole lah in terms of the penambahbaikan lah. Sebab dalam bilik you ni, you tak cerita pula bilik you kebal tak kebal. You just cakap semua orang akan ada shield, akan duduk kat sini, akan duduk kat situ. Saya sangka baik je ni, you duduk dalam bilik concrete lab. Tapi trust but verify, see? So that kind of explanation will also improve your understanding and the way you deliver it into your management lah. I believe you are inside the whatever management yang you terlibat, contohnya you safety committee ke, you dalam OSH department ke whatsoever. So this one is very good lah to think about sebab you dah dalam bidang kan. Jadi biological effects tadi, lepas tu dari segi dosimetri dan juga mapping. So 3 important items ni is sometimes neglected by our operators ataupun handlers lah. And then tadi last but not least lah, the very very last, you are talking about the disposal, and then you say that the disposal is under the clinical waste. Why you say like that?
Dia bukan clinical waste, dia masuk dalam Syakbin. Kira clinical waste lah. Cik, macam masuk dalam Syakbin dan orang lain akan clinical waste.
Dia kira clinical waste Walaupun dia radioactive material yang dah diminum, dia kira clinical waste. So what you discarded actually?
Bukan.
Never mind. You think back because I believe you have to sort of simplify it in the manner of apa yang sebenarnya you talking about, what you are actually thrown away. There is something yang you thrown away, there is something that you reuse back kan, macam dia punya holder, cup whatever, you akan guna balik. Tapi yang you thrown away is actually the suction, port suction tu lah kan. Lepas tu dengan all the yang sekali guna tu. Okay. So whatever is this, because this is radioactive material should be segregated based on the other things. Itu belum kita cerita lagi is either this patient is being monitored or not after dia being discharged. Dia selepas minum dia terus balik rumah ke dia kena tunggu dulu?
Dia di quarantine, dia dalam bilik dia sendiri.
Why?
Sebab dia akan expose dekat orang lain.
Yes, because of this kan.
Itu saya tak cerita.
So dalam kalau saya tanya you the quarantine, dalam bilik quarantine tu ada lab ke tak ada lab?
Yang mana? Bila dia dapat rumah, maksud saya bila
yang dia di quarantine tu di cover by lab lah kan. Dia duduk dalam bilik yang kebal lah, maknanya di cover oleh lab lah. So dia punya transmission against the external tu tak ada lah, takkan berlaku lah. Correct tak?
Tak, betul.
Okay, lagi yang cakap tadi balik rumah?
Kalau dia balik rumah, dia akan tak keluar daripada bilik dan tidak share. Macam kita quarantine COVID tu, so ada dia alone dekat dalam bilik tu, tak boleh share toilet and everything lah.
Okay. How you monitor?
Patient akan monitor sendiri.
So you believe in your patient? So you believe in your patient lah?
Kena believe lah sebab patient akan ramai. So kita akan percaya dia akan protect orang lain lah, sebab benda tu dikira sebagai radioaktif juga. So bila dia kena dekat kanak-kanak dengan warga emas, so dia akan affected.
That's why this is another step to think ahead. Okay, what I try to spark is actually not arguing too much lah about whatever done that you already done. It's okay, it's good. But whatever spark that I want to initiate in this discussion is basically what kind of improvement that you are looking into. You see bila you kata tadi dia dah di quarantine kan macam dalam COVID whatever, so for me is very good. Unfortunately sometimes in our country we need to tag ataupun we need to bind these people with law or with regulation or with SOP or with guideline so that they don't break the law, even though that law is not enforceable lah. You see because if you said ataupun if you have the written agreement that they understand that they have to stay alone in some room ke apa, then it's okay lah. Benda tu ada tak dibuat written agreement?
Ada. Bila first time patient akan minum tu, dia akan sign ada satu borang tu, nanti saya sharekan borang tu, saya tak sempat ambil lah. Dia akan share benda tu, patient sendiri akan faham, dia akan duduk seorang, ada macam kira macam aku janji lah antara dia dengan kita.
So that is a very very good explanation, but after the argument is initiated, but it's okay lah, never mind. Because that one is actually
benda lah sebab
anyway. No, that is the highlight actually. It's very good. That's why I know already how you all doing. It's just to make sure that it is already emphasized on your presentation, because that is the very important component as compared to your other friends' presentations. So saya harap puan boleh update lah. That's why saya kata bukan dah tak semenggah atau tak betul, tetapi it's more on missing information is not being able to be parked within the context lah. I mean because mungkin nanti nak kena letakkan lah kemudian nanti letakkan update je lah, saya akan buka link lah nanti, boleh ya?
Okay puan, okay tuan.
Okay. Terima kasih Puan Anissa. Just please wait for a while after this live ends. Alright. So before I end up the session, any question from the examiner?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Terima kasih Puan.
Thank you so much.
Terima kasih
Okay.
Puan Zina.
Alright. Thank you everybody who watched this one. Puan Anissa, please wait for a while, and then for the candidate who are watching this live, we are going to continue one last candidate before we take a break. Okay. Bye bye.